We're speaking this morning about South Africa, if we're a brand-conscious nation. With me in the studio, Terry Behan, CEO, the Fearless Executive. Terry, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Answer that question straight away. Are we a brand-conscious country?
I think we are. I think many countries over the last 10 years have become exceptionally brand conscious, and South Africa is one of those countries that is taking it very seriously.
Your background, you come from Ireland. If you compare the two markets, is there similarity? Are there different trends in what Ireland sees as a good brand and what South Africa sees as a good brand?
I think Ireland's unique in the sense that it was one of the first countries to start the trend of developing country brands. Subsequently, South Africa has picked up. There are similar trends. We both rely very heavily on tourism. We both rely very heavily on foreign direct investment.
When you say we rely on tourism, then look at South Africa as a market. What is the top brand in tourism in South Africa? What do we as South Africans recognize?
I think tourism in this country is known for a lot of ecotourism, its diversity, and the warmth of the people that come to that are in the country.
But then how do you associate a brand with that? I mean, so many people are playing off the same theme.
Sure. I think the brand is around positioning South Africa in the hearts and minds of people all over the world. They come, they respond to that brand, they come to the country, and when they come to the country, it's our role as ambassadors of the South African brand to ensure that they have a fantastic experience when they're here.
If we look at other brands in South Africa, what is established brands in South Africa? Look post pre-1994. Are those brands, or do those brands that were here during the years when we were sanctioned, those companies that stayed in South Africa and didn't disinvest, are those still the stronger brands in this country today? Or are they getting really stiff competition from the newer brands?
I think there's a lot of stiff competition. I think once our borders opened up properly in '94, so did our trade. It allowed a lot of new economic participants to come into the market. And it's often the younger companies that are a lot more savvy in terms of how to engage with a market that is requiring diversity, that's requiring a lot of competition, it's requiring good service. So
in other words, companies, in your opinion, the companies before 1994, do you think they had they thought, well, rest on our laurels, and along came competition?
They did. A lot of the time they thought, well, you know, we've got a closed market. This is it. There's no one out to compete with us. And now, you know, 12 years later, they're finding they're not top of the food chain anymore.
When we talk about branding, though, when is it established in ourselves? I mean, are you influenced from toddler age? How do we get influenced by a brand?
Oh, I tell you, it starts at that very young age. A friend of mine had a baby during the weekend. I didn't get a message from him. I got a message from Baby City congratulating him on having their child. So it starts at a very young age, and different brands will focus at different target markets at different age groups. So kids are hit very, very strongly, and so are adults.
It's interesting you're talking about kids, because I did a survey in the US. In fact, it was on a movie about Supersize Me. I don't know if you saw the whole thing with one of the food chains there, that children in America recognized Ronald McDonald and Barney the dinosaur, but not their own president.
I know, it's quite frightening, the amount of effort and energy people put into seemingly meaningless icons and symbols, so they don't have a relationship with reality.
Barney the dinosaur, you're saying, is meaningless?
He's very meaningful to a lot of kids. He might be meaningless to you and me, but his the way he's been positioned, the way he's been built, has really sewn up the hearts and minds of kids. Kids all over the world know who Barney the dinosaur is. Right or wrong, they do.
What is the trend in South Africa at the moment? You say there's a lot of competition from younger companies. What younger companies are we talking about?
One great example is the insurance market, where you have companies like Outsurance that didn't exist 12 years ago. And now they're a dominant player in the short-term insurance market off of a very low base. They've come into the market with a very aggressive marketing plan. They have integrated their brands very well, both internally and externally. And as a result, they're able to go out there and take the lion's share of the short-term market. There are many other examples in other industry, but Outsurance is a very well-known one.
It's interesting because they brought in a concept in insurance where people got paid out a certain amount of money if they didn't claim. And as far as a brand goes, a lot of other brands then followed that example.
They did. I think they call it their out bonus. And I mean, it's been known as something else called no claims bonus for many years, but they've turned it on its head. They've called it something else. They position it in the market, say, we'll give you the money back, where historically insurance companies have been very reluctant to do so. So they've endeared themselves to the hearts and minds of the public very well.
What about telecommunications? If we look at cell phone services, we've really got three big players, and then we've got Virgin Mobile that's also coming, which is sort of piggybacking on Cell C. Who and how do you establish the biggest cell phone brand? I mean, how do we know, how did Vodacom get to its dominance? It's a relatively new industry.
It is. I think institutions like Vodacom and MTN were the lead of the market when they opened up the market. So it was very easy for them to obtain dominance very, very quickly. You have new entrants like Virgin Mobile coming in, and they're doing some fascinating stuff. They're putting a value proposition into the marketplace that says, you know what, we want to give you a sense of good service. We're not going to tie you into contracts. And we're really chasing after the top 20% of the consumers that exist in Vodacom and in places like MTN and Cell C. So there is room for a fourth operator if they can differentiate their service offering. If they can provide the market with something different than the current players are already doing, then they're quite likely to succeed.
But that also depends on how the marketing is done.
It does. It does. I think that
what catches a South African's eye in your experience?
I think, historically speaking, they've responded to what we would call recognition. So they see a lot of TV commercials, they see a lot of billboards, but the consumer is becoming more sophisticated. They're looking past that. They're looking for depth of experience. They're looking to receive something from their brands in return. And possibly Virgin is one of the companies to do that.
When you came to South Africa, what was the first brand you noticed that South Africans just couldn't live without and mentioned on a daily basis?
I think there were two things. The first brand was Brand South Africa. When you arrive into the country, you're greeted by people at Home Affairs who check your passport at the airport. That sets the tone for engagement within our country. And the national brand works very hard at ensuring that when visitors come into our country to invest, to participate in trade, or to come on holidays, that they are engaged in the appropriate way.
And that's what impressed on your mind when you arrived in South Africa?
It did. I mean, I arrived here pretty much just after the turn of democracy, and I was impressed with just the way I was engaged by the country on point of first entry. Everybody was seemingly at that stage was leaving, and people were looking at me saying, "Why are you here?" And 12 years later, it's been a fantastic experience.
So as far as we go forward, what you're saying is that there's a lot of competition from young markets, but you see tourism as a major play in branding in South Africa, especially leading up to another big brand, and that's 2010.
For sure. I think tourism, the provinces, the national brand South Africa, all play a crucial role in generating an appropriate experience for people coming to visit us here in 2010. We don't really have an opportunity to create the same infrastructure as countries like Germany, but we can offer people something they've never seen before. We can provide that warm African hospitality. We can provide them with a fantastic 2010 experience that they will be unique to South Africa.
Terry, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on branding in South Africa. Pleasure talking to you.
You too.
Terry Behan is the CEO of the Fearless Executive, and we were speaking about branding in our country.